Hello, friends. It's me again. This is a offshoot of the RK series by Reddit user Hate the Beard. This one is called BearBeard, so I guess we'll just get into specifically about Bibi. So let's see what this is all about, shall we? BearBeard from the Roadkill Beard series deserves his own chapter. Bibi is in love with RK, and it's tragic because Bibi was mentally ill and socially inept due to his traumatic upbringing. Jeez. I'm not going to talk too much on his trauma, as it's really nobody's business but their own, but essentially, something happened to his parents when he was a toddler. His brother, who's another neckbeard that deserves his own mini-saga, and Bibi lived with their abusive grandparents in, believe it or not, an actual marijuana commune. Wow. Given how absolutely remote much of the farms were, it's not too surprising to see homeschooling and a few neighbors. Bibi never really interacted with anyone outside of his family until 7th grade. Bibi graduated with Cal, and he was actually doing pretty well for himself. He was book smart and had scholarship offers, but he didn't want to go to college. You see, his grandparents had convinced him that it was all a pyramid scheme and only stupid people went to college. Lovely. To this end, in all my time living with Bibi, he never once respected that Cal and I were getting our bachelors. He thought that we were suckers and our education was subsequently unimportant, and therefore our study time was never respected either. He would either interrupt our study sessions or tell us that textbooks were all wrong. Bibi only got worse after high school. Pretty sure that's when he peaked and RK stunted his growth as an adult. You see, Bibi got kicked out of his grandparents' house and remained homeless for over a year, in which he lived in the woods near to his grandparents' property, basically just camping there the whole time, like a bear in the woods. And he was pretty proud of that. That's when he met RK again. RK had gone to high school with Cal and Bibi, and had done some very sketchy shit to both of them in that time. So Bibi and he were exactly close, and Cal had cut him off completely. But he had sworn he had changed, and he offered Bibi a place free of rent at his own apartment, and to this, Bibi decided he owed him his life for taking him off the streets. Though I'm sure a job or college dorm might have done the exact same thing, but, I'm not one to judge for their past. It is what it is. RK and Bibi immediately began a highly sexual relationship, as RK thought the only way to show someone love was through sex, and Bibi believed that he owed RK whatever he wanted because he had, quote, saved his life. Those were his actual words. Bibi no longer had to worry about food or shelter or even bills. RK took care of all of that for him. Now, Bibi suffered from delusions and is also a pathological liar, probably because of his trauma. He would spin stories on the spot to make himself seem interesting or relatable. RK is also a pathological liar, but in a much worse way, and together they allowed each other to spin the most ridiculous tales and believe absolutely far-out quote-unquote facts. I didn't realize it at the time, but they had swallowed the red pill, as I have seen described from other Reddit stories. Oh god. Despite all his faults, Bibi was actually a really sweet person before he had moved in with Cal and I. It was us rejecting RK's affections that had turned him against us. Bibi would cry to Percival all the time about RK's actions. Bibi hated how obsessed RK was with me. Bibi would even talk about harming himself if RK left him for Cal and I. Jesus. Bibi would cry that he felt used by Cal and I despite us paying for over half of the apartment and amenities, and all of the vet bills, even for their cats. RK would tell him that they were being used because RK felt like he could not be in a relationship with my partner and I, then we were obviously just using them for money and rent. What? We always paid on time, and they were always late with the rent, getting us months behind, which would lead to our eventual eviction. Percival tried to convince Bibi that he was just staying with RK because he felt like he owed him. and RK was just using him for convenience. Bibi would not listen. He decided that if he can't be with RK, then life just simply wasn't worth living. This is probably another reason why he was so hostile towards Cal and I after we all moved in together. He resented me for RK's feelings. Bibi hated that my partner and I affected RK so much. Looking back on all of this, I realized how little I actually knew these people when I had met them. We were all so naive back then. They were just nice to me and hid so much behind closed doors. It wasn't until after we had all moved in that all of this really came to light. I am very grateful that I escaped that toxic situation, and wherever Bibi is, I hope he got away from RK as well. Or maybe they're living happily ever after as the kings of neck and leg beards. I hate leaving this on such a bummer vibe, so I'll leave you with this little gem, some delicious mini karma for RK. You see, one night, RK's cat Moo had caught a mouse. We obviously did not want her to eat the mouse because in the junkyard we lived in, there was no telling where it had been, or if the crackheads had left out some kind of rat poison. So RK, in nothing but his underwear, stood in the light of the kitchen in all of his glory. He's over 6 feet tall with shaggy hair and an unkempt beard, acne red and shining brightly in the light like he was a Christmas tree. Hair covered him from head to toe, long, dark, and curly. Percy saw him and literally thought he had the Neanderthal from the Geico commercials in our kitchen, holding Moo by the scruff of her neck. When RK went to grab the mouse, Moo scratched RK's hand and just the smallest bit to make him let go, and his very loose blue boxers formed a wet trail down the front. He had pissed himself. Percy immediately ran to Cal and I's room, slamming the door and letting out wheezing laughter, trying between tears to retell this thing he had just witnessed. Good night, Moonhorse, heard, and thank you all. Wow. It's okay. I mean, you're gonna try and take a mouse from a cat. That is gonna happen, and like, it seems a little excessive there, bro. But okay, sure, I guess. Maybe he just really, really was startled by that fact. I don't know. But yeah, this story of Bibi here. This is definitely someone who has a lot of issues and is not dealing with them properly, like at all. This is someone who refuses to see outside of the, I don't know, pre-built kind of walls that were put around them by the grandparents who were not exactly the nicest people from the way this was described, and just doesn't seem to understand the world around them. And instead of, finding independence, finding a reason to strike out and learn about the world around them, they've decided to cloister themselves even further and only depend on one specific person who has a vested interest in lying and being horrible to them. So, yeah, that's pretty fucking sad. A lot of times we hear about how neckbeards are always looking for relationships. They don't usually have one, but there are rare instances where that kind of thing does happen. But a lot of these guys are very toxic to begin with. Like, they all have this incredibly toxic mentality. So it just turns into this, like, really gross thing. They claim that they can't find a relationship because they're too nice, but the truth of the matter is it's not that you're too nice, it's that you're really horrible and people can see that. Legbeards are obviously no exception. They do the same things. I've witnessed that a few times myself, where it's this whole, sob story of no one respects me, I can't find someone who likes me. And it's like, well, I don't really think that's the case. I think the case is that you're kind of awful to a lot of people, and a lot of people really don't like whenever people are just awful to them, so they tend to not want to hang out with you because of it. It's the same thing with this, they mentioned red pill, so yeah, it's that same mentality. This idea of, like, women don't like me because I'm not some beta male and I'm not, orbiting them and constantly being nice to them. It's like, no, that's, oh my god. And then they come up with the other excuses of, well, I'm not as handsome as these movie stars or whatever. It's like, no, dude, the reason, break it down for you, okay? George Clooney's a good-looking man, but the reason people like George Clooney is because he's charming and intelligent. His looks are a thing, yeah, but not everybody thinks he's that good-looking. But he is a good actor because he's charming and intelligent. His looks are just a thing. That's just a part of who he is. You can be incredibly handsome, but if you're dumb as a rock and have absolutely no charisma, you're still not appealing. That's still just a thing. So this red pill nonsense is just kind of, it's stupid. It's just really stupid. I'm getting off on a tangent, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that kind of like, I have to be with this, person because I've decided. And RK is an incredible manipulator. The fact that they started this whole relationship together, and as soon as another couple came into this, RK was just like, I want them. And that's his whole fucking focus. And he'll lie and break things and manipulate and twist and just do whatever he can to try and make that happen. And yeah, these are the actions of a manipulative, possible sociopath, absolute asshole, that's for sure. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. Bibi is not completely without blame, obviously, in a lot of this, but it is sad to know that there is someone who went through something that horrible and just, it's not that they can't learn, it's that they refuse to. And that's an important thing. That's a very important thing when it comes to a lot of neckbeards and a lot of those incel, red pill, MGTOW types. It's not that they're incapable of learning, because they obviously are. They learned all these behaviors. It's that once they get set into a way, they don't want it to change. They're very comfortable with this level of misery and stupidity that they surround themselves with because they can control that. They don't like things that they can't control. There's a reason why the nice guys always do that kind of 180 as soon as a girl rejects them. It's because they realize that they can no longer control this situation and therefore cannot control them, so their first reaction is just burn down every bridge and run away as fast as possible. Because if you can't control the situation, it's not worth being in. It's very narcissistic. It's kind of fucked up. But that's the end of this story, so thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed whatever this is. It's a something. I don't know if it's a good something or a bad something, but it's definitely a something. We learned a lot. But thank you for being here. Thank you again to Hate the Beard for posting this. That was enlightening. We definitely learned some stuff. And, yeah, if you'd like to support this channel, I have a Ko-Fi and I have a merch store. You can check out both of those things. And if you want to send in your own story, I have a subreddit, r/Moonhorse Stories. If you send it in, I'll check it out. Till then, I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, I love you all. Goodbye!